After a long and arduous journey, a year of widespread illness, this season of isolation and loneliness, may God bless the cheerful, for they cheer everyone else around them. However, don't just pretend to be well and happy. There is no point in saying all is well in an unwell and unsettled world. We are what our most cherished thoughts make us. If what you treasure most are thoughts heavy laden with fear, anxiety, and anger, you are really not available for much joy of any kind. Worry is interest paid on trouble before it is due. Think of it that way. And it's really dumb thing to worry. It's also very difficult to be joyful if you are running around like a squirrel when the opportunities and acorns come and you are about to burn out. Intensity of anxiety that burns for a long time in your life can only make charcoal out of you. Prayer, rest, devotion, fun are the called for remedies, especially these days during the pandemic. Let's just be honest with ourselves. You cannot be joyful if you are too demanding. That is, if you demand more than you love. If you can bring yourself to love more and demand less, you will be a lot happier. In the midst of joyless and painful life, Emmanuel, God with us, comes to earth because God so loved the world that God wanted to send God's hope and love not only to us as individuals, but to whole communities of people, like the homeless, whose number we read are now growing more and more. In Manhattan, I sometimes see some people walking around wrapped in expensive furs, while other people walking around wrapped in newspaper. Let us not forget that God is trying at Christmas to send God's hope and love to the homeless and the exiled, to the tortured, to the deported, to the COVID-19 patients, and all those people who are affected, and to the vast number of marginalized people. Who but Jesus, a homeless child about to be exiled, could bring them any semblance of comfort, a touch of heavenly joy in their earthly sorrow? Christ's presence is comfort itself in tragedy. It is also forgiveness in sin. And his name shall be called Jesus because he will save people from sins. On Christmas Eve and on your Christmas day, let God make you a Christmas present of forgiveness. Let God give you a fresh start, new hope, a renewed capacity for laughter and for love. Christ's presence is also felt in happiness, undergirding earthly joys with a heavenly meaning. The Emmanuel we wait is not just for John the Baptist in the wilderness. Jesus will be called a glutton and a drunkard. He loves party, as you know. He changed the water into wine. He is a man of happiness as well as man of sorrow, because the greater the capacity to grieve, the greater capacity for happiness. I really think that gloomy Christians are not Christian. They are people who have struck some kind of dull bargain with life. in order not to feed too badly about something. They won't feel good about anything. And they have the nerve to call this emotional mediocrity the good and happy life. Heavenly joy really has little to do with happiness or unhappiness, and everything to do with meaning and fulfillment. Didn't Paul write of Jesus that for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame? It's paradoxical and true. Jesus knew joy because he knew that the great purpose of life was to spend it for something that outlasts all. And that brings us back to the love embodied in the child in a manger. The love that God is of God, that is of God. The love that bears all things, believes all things, love that hopes for all things, and endures for all things. It is in being loved and in loving that we find life's deepest meaning, a meaning we cannot form in the face of tragedies we cannot fathom, and in the face of human stupidities we can understand all too well. Love yourself, love life, and more importantly, love God, and you are successful, whether or not the world thinks so. The highest purpose of Christianity, which is primarily a way of life, not a system of belief, is to help people to love one another. And the first fruit of love is joy, the joy that represents meaning and fulfillment. So may God bless the cheerful on this Christmas day. May your Christmas be full of promise, full of hope, of love, and of joy past compare. And may our time together always be one in which we are present one to another, especially in tragedy, in sins, in our mistake, but also in joy and happiness, as God was and is and always will be present with us. For his name is Emmanuel, which means God with us. Have a blessed and happy Christmas, everyone. Amen.